What we saw last night from Patrick Beverly is one of the worst encounters that I've seen with a player and a fan in some pretty recent memory. Now, if you guys haven't seen it, I'm going to show the clip right here so you guys can make your own judgment before I go into talking about what happened. Now, in the beginning of the clip, as we see Brook Lopez check out of the game, Milwaukee's out of this game completely, so they take out all the starters. But we see Patrick Beverly throw the ball, and it hits a random woman in the face. I don't know exactly who he's trying to throw the ball to here, who he's throwing it at. Clearly, he's throwing it at them. He's not throwing it to them. And I'm not exactly sure what came out. We're not really sure exactly what they said. Some are saying that a fan yelled out Cancun on 3, but I feel like Patrick Beverly wouldn't throw it at a fan if that's what was said. If it is, and that was what was said by the fan, and that's the reason why Patrick Beverly threw the ball, that's just a terrible excuse. I wouldn't really say there's too many good reasons for him to do this in the first place. I mean, depending on what was said, we don't really know yet, but there's no reason why an NBA veteran, an NBA player, any person in general should really be going out and throwing a ball at a fan, and then he gets the ball back and he throws it back at the fan once again. I'm assuming hitting the guy in the first place that was talking to him, as the first clip as I showed. He's not throwing the ball to a specific person. He threw it, and it seemed like he missed the target and hit the woman by accident. And this whole entire thing, I know you're down by 20. I know you're about to lose the series, but really, if someone is talking to you as a fan, I do think that you have to have that professionalism. I know a lot of players have talked about fans saying some things, and then the players talking to the fans too, and they've got fines, but if this was what was said by the fan Cancun on 3, and you're throwing a ball at him in the stands, that is just completely unacceptable. And like I said, I'm not going to be here to come out and tell you what's right and what's wrong between these players, but a guy who's been in the league for over 10 years, about 15 years to this point, and you're doing stuff like this on the bench, it's just sad to see. Patrick Beverly, I'm a fan of him. I know a lot of people maybe aren't the biggest fans of Patrick Beverly. He has a very love-hate player, and overall, I'm just not very happy to see something like this happen, and for him to go out there and do something like this on the bench when this wasn't needed at all. I mean, you're down in the game, you're losing, but no matter what was said, really, you can't be doing this. You can't be assaulting fans almost, depending on how they look at this. Throwing a ball, I know that's different than going out and physically assaulting someone, but you're throwing a ball as hard as you can, it looks like, at someone, and it bounced off of someone's head that wasn't even really in the picture or was talking to Patrick Beverly when he hit the woman at first. So I'm not very happy with Patrick Beverly here, and it's just not a good look for him or really anyone on this team, because someone tried to come in and stop him after, but no one on the bench really did anything to stop Patrick Beverly in the end, and they kind of just walked him away. Next up, though, this next clip, I know he promotes his podcast a lot, but especially after this, I'm just not a huge fan of what Patrick Beverly says to the reporter here, and it really comes off as very arrogant, and I don't know if he was joking or not, but it's just not a good look for him.
Here.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Before I finish.
Yeah.
You subscribe to my pod?
Do I subscribe to you? I do not.
So you can't interview me then. No
Okay,
disrespect.
Well, Jamal is here.
You subscribe? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Again, there were a couple times within a bucket or two. In previous games, y'all have been able to kind of get over that hump, or maybe.
Mic on my face, please? Yeah, thanks.
Was it anything they did in particular, or was it just one of those where the bucket didn't go down, there wasn't the stop, they made one? What kind of prevented that you all from being able to get over, kind of like you have in the past?
You'll move that mic, please, or just get out the circle, please, for me, please, ma'am. If you're not subscribed to my pod, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, as we can see, Patrick Beverly is kind of playing a little bit of a character here, and he usually does this, ask people if they're subscribed to the podcast. He has the hat on, but just the way that he does this, especially after the incident, less than an hour before, I'm not exactly sure when this scrum happened, but I'm assuming right after the game, so maybe less than a half an hour after that, just not a good night for Patrick Beverly. And the reporter, who, as we know, if we can look online going through her tweets, she's been there for 40 years. She's reporting for ESPN, arguably the biggest sports broadcasting company out there right now. And despite Patrick Beverly, I'll put the tweet up here, calling and he apologized. In the first place, you just shouldn't be doing this, especially after the night you're already having. And I understand he's playing this bit, but it just doesn't come off in a good way right now. Maybe if he didn't throw a ball at a fan and hit an innocent woman before, a half an hour before this, maybe it wouldn't be looked as bad, but coming out, it just isn't a good look. He's telling a reporter that if you're not subscribed to his podcast to leave. She stays, she's respectful, she kind of takes it as a joke, and then she holds out the microphone and he pushes it away. He pushes it away once again a few seconds later and tells her to completely leave the circle as she's not allowed to get clips from him. Overall, this whole situation from Patrick Beverly, I'm sure we're going to see a suspension. I'm sure the first clip, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen with this second clip, depending on what the NBA kind of sees. Maybe it would just be a fine. I'm sure something's going to happen from it, just because the NBA really goes out there and they do fine players for pretty much anything they do in an outside environment like this when they're doing interviews after the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a fine. This punishment, though, the suspension from throwing the ball at a fan, not once, but twice, I think it's going to be a very big one. I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to be. I don't really know what the NBA's kind of timing is with stuff like that, but there's no way that I don't see Patrick Beverly getting at least a few games suspension to start the season at this point. I don't see the NBA going out and looking at these clips and saying that nothing bad happened here. Because when we look at this, he did go out and throw the ball at an innocent fan 2 times. Maybe they said something, maybe they were yelling at him, we don't exactly know yet. But even if they were, as an NBA player, you kind of have to be above the fans. Yes, it's not fair for these athletes to take this punishment and this criticism and fans yelling at them, but at the end of the day, you are above the fan. You are the professional. You are the one that is being paid millions, tens of millions of dollars to go out there, and maybe they said something very bad. We're not exactly sure yet, but if he did just say Cancun on 3 after being eliminated, you can't go out there and throw a ball twice. Maybe the first time you may get off with only a few games suspension, but for him to do it twice, it's on camera, clear as day, in 4K, especially after hitting an innocent woman in the first clip. It's really not going to be good for Patrick Beverly. I would expect at least 10 games. I wouldn't be surprised if it's even more than that. We're going to have to see exactly what happens with the NBA, and he's going to be a free agent in this offseason, I believe. So we're going to see if an NBA team really wants to take a risk on a guy who's older, who is going to be starting the year with a suspension. So we'll have to see exactly what the NBA gives out, but not a good look for Patrick Beverly. And let me know down below, guys, what do you think of this situation? I know Patrick Beverly has been in the drama. He's been in a mix. He's a player that, like I said before, you either love him or you hate him. So let me know what you guys think of this situation. How long do you think he should be suspended? And what do you think should happen after both of these clips? Let me know down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.